The country is being run by a shadow president, mental midget named Russ Vought. 42 million Americans won't receive SNAP benefits in November. More than 7 million people protested last Saturday, setting a new record. A Microsoft update full of bugs affects Windows 11 users. All this and more coming up next. Hi everyone, it's Friday, October 24th, 2025. Thanks for joining me for Alternative News, covering some of the top stories of the week as well as today. But first, a 30-second commercial from my sponsor. Dubby Clean Energy Drink Mix. Lots of different flavors, including a hydration blend with electrolytes. Whether you're working an overnight shift or driving long distance, no matter what the situation is, Dubby will keep you alert and awake. Dubby energy drinks are made in the USA, FDA approved, and contain no sugar, no maltodextrin, no artificial colors or dyes, and is gluten-free. Visit the website for more flavors and products. Order Dubby Energy Drink Mix online by using the video or description link and enter code UFO1 for 10% off. Up first, more than 7 million people protested on No King's Day this past Saturday, which is a new record. This footage is available at the nokings.org website. These protests were peaceful, and it was only 7 million people. But watch what happens in November when Trump and the shadow president Russ Vought cut off SNAP food to Americans, and you're going to have 42 million more protesters, and they're not going to be peaceful. They're going to be hungry and angry, and the military cannot control 42 million angry people. That I guarantee you. I promise you. And they're not going to like going against their own people anyway. That is not going to last, and it's not going to work. Trump, a fool in office, traitor to this nation, needs to be removed and dragged out by his ears, in my personal opinion. And this footage should last a little longer, as they're showing all the different, and that, of course, this isn't all the different places where the No Kings protests took place this past Saturday. But it's some of them, and there's about another minute and 20 seconds left to this, and you can see it's not just cities. We're seeing some small towns as well. Freeport, Maine, Columbus, Indiana. Some of these are small towns, very small, not cities. We're seeing cities, and then we're seeing towns as well. A lot of people are angry in all different areas and walks of life, not just people in cities. Fremont, Nebraska, that's not a large city. Milford, Connecticut is certainly a very small town. Some of these other places are very small towns. Leesburg, Laramie. These are not large cities. Some of them are small cities, but a lot of those are towns, very small towns. Fargo, North Dakota. Vermont, up in the sticks. Mount Pellier there. Oxford. And so, up next, the country is being run by this shadow president, like something out of The Wizard of Oz. A mental midget coward named Russ Vought, who canceled SNAP For 42 million Americans, which will begin in November, SNAP recipients have already received notice. Benefits will stop in November.
This is the most important person in the Trump administration that you've probably never heard of.
At least until the president posted this. Join us now, Russ Vogt.
Russ Vogt.
Russell Vogt, director of the office.
I tell people when Russ Vogt speaks, it's like a papal bull. You should pay attention.
He's more than just Donald Trump's budget guru.
He has two very clear goals: to make the presidency as powerful as it's ever been, and to dismantle as much of the federal bureaucracy as he can.
People have referred to him as the shadow president. I'm Andy Kroll. I'm an investigative reporter for ProPublica. I've been covering politics and government in Washington for almost 16 years. I had heard the name Russ Vogt, but he was always just slightly outside the field of vision. And then I got my hands on this video.
We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work.
He talks about this goal of wanting to traumatize federal workers.
We want to put them in trauma.
That just planted this seed in my mind that I had to try to figure out who this person is.
He declined my request for an interview, so I set out to talk to everyone I possibly could, to watch every video, listen to every podcast. I obtained hours of briefings to his supporters that had never been published before.
America has experienced nothing short of a quiet revolution.
We know the CRT and the transgender sewage that's being pumped into our schools and institutions.
A border invasion furthering, quite frankly, a reverse colonization.
We're actually trying to save the country.
Those recordings really help me understand his evolution from this numbers wonk to a full-fledged leader of the MAGA movement.
One of the key authors of Project 2025, Russell Vogt,
told the reporters that Trump would deploy the military to silence the unrest.
I think you have to rehabilitate Christian nationalism. You have the largest deportation in history, block funding for Planned Parenthood. I want to be the person that crushes the deep state.
Yeah, I called for trauma within the bureaucracies. The bureaucracies hate the American people.
He really has a vision to change the direction of American history.
We must do our duty for the course of this country, quite frankly, for the course of Western civilization, and for the course of history.
Vogt has always seen himself as a blue-collar political outsider, even though he's spent basically his entire adult life here in Washington. The first job that seems to have left a real mark on him, and it did leave a serious imprint, was when he got a job working in the mailroom of a senator from Texas named Phil Gramm.
This is a collage of political giveaways. I am not going to spend more money we don't have on programs we can't afford.
Phil Gramm was the ultimate budget hawk. He was sort of half-jokingly referred to as the most hated man in Washington.
Our problem really comes down to the political power of the public employee labor union.
He was willing to make enemies not just of Democrats, but of Republicans as well. And that really gives you an insight into Russ Vogt. When he was inside the legislative branch, he finds himself battling far more with fellow Republicans who, in his view, are not living up to the principles of what it means to be a conservative. He grows so disillusioned that he leaves.
After 12 years on Capitol Hill, I was often frustrated by why more members of Congress simply didn't do the right thing. Most of them spend too much time listening to the loud vocal groups in their district clamoring for more government.
He goes to this new upstart group called Heritage Action, the quote-unquote new fangs of an old beast, which is the Heritage Foundation, the sort of long-standing conservative think tank. And he becomes basically the chief antagonist of his own party.
Heritage Action, let's give him a warm, warm welcome, Russ Vogt.
We believe that every member of Congress needs congressional accountability, whether they're the best or the worst member of Congress.
You should not fund and pay for Obamacare.
It's hurting the American economy.
Fund government, but not Obamacare.
At midnight last night,
For the first time in 17 years, Republicans in Congress chose to shut down the federal government.
He is very much a creature of the swamp, someone who knows the federal budget inside and out. He has really passionate feelings about the House Rules Committee, yet he comes around to this notion that we need to stir people at the grassroots and make that change flow up.
Never wanted to leave the fight, and really until Donald Trump becomes elected, and then you have an opportunity for paradigm-shifting work.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action.
There was a scramble to try to get people to go into these key jobs, and getting people to go to the Office of Management and Budget is a crucial role. A lot of what they're doing right now at such a rapid clip, they tried to do during Trump's first administration. Every dollar that Congress approved to fund the government, OMB controls the flow of that money. If you were to pick the one place in the federal government to go where you could put a kink in the hose and bring everything to a stop, OMB is basically the only place where you could do that. But Congress has the power of the purse. And there is even a law that says the president cannot, quote unquote, impound, to use the legal jargon term, cannot freeze lawfully approved money just because the White House disagrees with it. But that's what they did in this case with Ukraine.
Democrats tonight are seizing on newly unredacted documents about what's at the heart of the president's impeachment, that freeze on military aid to Ukraine.
In 2019, the message comes down from the White House to the Office of Management and Budget that we want to freeze more than $200 million of money that was going to go to Ukraine in the form of security assistance.
The bureaucracy was literally just ignoring it. And quite frankly, his political appointees, like John Bolton, were ignoring him as well.
In Vote's eyes, this was a deep state insubordination, a rebellion by employees who weren't on board with the president.
And we cut the money off, and it was like all hell broke loose within the bureaucracy.
Well, he got impeached, yeah.
And so,
Resolution impeaching Donald John Trump.
Impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Vote has repeatedly said that they didn't break the law, even though this government watchdog said that they did. But really, he sees this as a kind of first test moment in a strategy that he believes actually the president should use, and should use far more often and aggressively than even in the case of the Ukraine money. It's July of 2020, and Vote is sworn in as the director.
We had 6 months to go, and the president said, "Russ, we need another term. We're just figuring this out."
In the final weeks of the administration, Trump is constantly talking about how the election is fraudulent. This, of course, culminates in January 6th. There is an exodus of senior people in the Trump administration. Russ Vote is not a part of that exodus. He stands by Trump. And on one of the last days, Vote tells him that he plans to launch this new political operation with the mission to essentially keep the MAGA movement alive.
Our next guest has launched a new think tank and advocacy group to advance former President Trump's America First agenda.
Russ Vote, former Office of Management and Budget Director and the president of the Center for Renewing America. Russ, thank you for joining me.
When Vote looks out at the state of the country, he sees quite a darkened landscape.
The FBI has been weaponized. Critical race theory is state-sanctioned racism. And what they're doing in our schools and pushing gender-affirming care is chemical castration.
In 2022, his organization, Center for Renewing America, hosts this gala at, of course, Mar-a-Lago. President Trump is there, giving Vote's operation his imprimatur in media appearances and briefing calls with his supporters. Vote is very vocal in a way that he just wasn't at any point earlier in his career about what he sees as being wrong with America.
So we believe that we have become too secular, not just overall in the country, but on the right. Our elites have lost the consensus that we're a Judeo-Christian nation.
And so this new project is not only about taking on critical race theory or raising awareness among the grassroots about the weaponization of government. But he's also seeding this deeper notion that America is basically losing sight of what it actually was meant to be.
I have no problem if it's properly understood when someone calls me a Christian nationalist. I reject when they're trying to use a dog whistle, when they're trying to say it's a fascist and all that nonsense. But should we lean into this?
Unlike most pejoratives, it describes something that's true. We are Christians who are nationalists. We are people who believe that we have a Christian nation. Right now, churches have all of this talk about love your neighbor, and they don't have any ability to say, no, we do not want that group of refuge coming from that country that is dominated by Sharia law. We don't want.
He takes his vision, his plan, his ideas straight to the grassroots.
Honor all the work that Russell Vogt has been doing. Those Thursday calls, I look forward to every week.
He has this weekly briefing call with anyone who is a supporter who wants to tune in.
We have largely failed to turn back the overwhelming tide of government.
These recordings really give you a view into the way he thinks about strategy.
So when you're watching television and the words woke and weaponized come out of a politician's mouth, you can know that that's coming in from this call, that's coming from the strategies that we're putting out and trying to shape the narrative.
He had success getting these ideas into the bloodstream of American politics.
Crooked Joe's DOJ is woke and weaponized.
Woke and weaponized bureaucrats at the Department.
This woke and weaponized government has to be defanged.
There's a moment in one of these tapes at this annual confab, and it was actually a speech given by Steve Bannon.
And I realize there's some people that question Trump, but look at that command performance he gave the other night. I mean, it's like Charlemagne. That's like a Viking chieftain standing up there. Russ can tell he's a very imperfect instrument, right? But he's an instrument of the Lord. He's an instrument of the Lord for his vengeance, okay?
We think about Bannon and Vogt as surrogates of Trump. When you hear Bannon describe Trump as an instrument of God, you start to think that maybe it's the other way around, that Trump is an instrument that Vogt uses, that Bannon uses, or in their view, that the Almighty uses toward this longer-term agenda.
The stark reality in America is that we are in the late stages of a complete Marxist takeover of the country. We are here in the year of 2024, a year that very well, and I believe it will, rival 1776 and 1860. And guess what? We have in Donald Trump a man who is so uniquely positioned to serve this role, a man whose own interests perfectly align with the interests of the country. That is nothing more than a gift of God.
The plans are already underway to ensure that if Donald Trump wins, all of the chaos and dysfunction and lack of preparation that hampered his first administration will not hamper his second. Vogt is absolutely at the center of these efforts.
The majority of my time right now is being spent chairing the transition portion of the Project 2025. We have detailed agency plans. We are writing the actual executive orders. I don't want President Trump having to lose a moment of time having fights in the Oval Office about whether something is legal or doable or moral. If we fail, this election will have been for nothing.
The golden age of America begins right now.
Day one, in the most Trumpian fashion, the president sits down at a desk in an arena with a stack of executive orders. And he sets in motion just an absolute blizzard in the executive branch. Vogt comes back into the same role, picking up right where he left off.
The president ran on the notion that the Impoundment Control Act is unconstitutional. I agree with that.
So it is the law of the land. I don't care what the president said when he was running. It is the law of the land.
He and his team played a key role in firing government workers, slashing budgets to the bone.
rescind $1.1 billion in funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, $8.3 billion in funding for the State Department.
He held up billions in funding for Head Start, after-school programs, energy assistance for low-income households, research at the National Institutes of Health. One of Vogt's colleagues at his think tank came out and said Elon Musk was taking direction from Russ.
The chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
There was some friction, but then there were other examples where it seemed that Vogt and Doge were working hand in glove. And when they did, they could be brutally efficient. The clearest example of this is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
We virtually shut down the out-of-control CFPB, escorting radical left bureaucrats out of the building and locking the doors behind them.
Vogt was put in charge of it by Trump. He directed Doge operatives to go in and get access to data at the same time that Vogt himself was shutting down the headquarters and stopping all work. This status quo smashing approach that Elon took.
Some of the things that I say will be incorrect. Nobody's going to bat 1,000.
Created more momentum for the bigger scale things that Vogt wants to accomplish.
5:03 this morning, day 2 of the federal government shutdown, and right now Congress remains deadlocked.
We should not bend it all on a CR, because then we've given the heroin addict a taste of heroin again. Have we not, Russ?
I don't think anyone should be afraid of a government shutdown.
You know Russell Vogt, he's a serious person, very serious person, and he's sitting there and he's getting ready to cut things.
Russ Vogt, the OMB director, has been dreaming about this moment, preparing this moment since puberty.
Russ Vogt, who has posted on X just a short time ago, the rifts have begun. RIF, R-I-F, stands for reduction in force.
No matter the attacks, the slander, the legal bills, the ended relationships.
In Russ Vogt, the cultural battles and the fiscal battles have been brought together.
So plan and act accordingly, give freely, pray continuously, but come what may, fight.
And you're seeing that play out day by day right now in the second Trump administration. It's hard to think of a White House that has so pushed the bounds on what the president can do.
They've never seen anything like what's happened in the last 8 months.
It's setting up what I think is going to be a pretty dramatic clash, not only between the White House and Congress, but ultimately a fight that's going to play out in the courts, and one that will determine how powerful the president really is.
We will make our country greater, stronger, more united, and more faithful than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
So that was the shadow president, Russ Vogt, the wizard behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz, the movie The Wizard of Oz, if anyone's ever seen that. And it's interesting because they all have, I say wizard, you think of the Grand Wizard, you know, or the wizard in the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan racist organization. And they're all racist. Trump's a racist. Russ Vogt, you know, they all hate the government and they're racists. And they have all the characteristics of the Ku Klux Klan or some of these other organizations. And what are they going to do when 42 million people, hungry people, after losing their SNAP benefits, surround the White House? The military can't stop 42 million people. It can't even, it's not even possible. It can't even begin to deal with 42 million people, especially its own people, that they're not going to want to use live ammo and stuff like that. They're going to have a big problem. 42 million people surround the White House. What are they going to do? Go down into their bunker and hide in their bunker? You know what people will do? They'll bring cement trucks and they'll dump cement and they'll seal them down in under the ground in those bunkers permanently. That's what they'll do. That's what they'll do when these cowards go and hide in their bunkers, because that's exactly what they're going to do when 42 million people surround the White House. They're not going to, the National Guard's not going to be able to deal with that. And that's exactly what will happen. So, and Elon, I knew there was one last little point I wanted to make. Elon is a kind of a mysterious guy. You know, he has good sides, bad sides. You know, who is he? Is he the good Elon or the bad Elon? Which is the real Elon, right? This is what we're all wondering. And then, you know, you see Elon. So now I guess Elon had a falling out with Trump. Well, what was he doing in Trump's administration in the first place? What kind of an idiot is he? And then you see him waving that chainsaw around. He should be ashamed of himself, like he's on some wrestling prop or something like that. Very, very unprofessional and immature, in my opinion. And then the way he's dressed like he's like on like a wrestling set or something. Like this is the WWF or the WWE. And he's got a sports jacket on, and that's about it. The rest of it is just like casual clothes. Very unprofessional. The new Windows update by Microsoft was released with lots of bugs. Here's the UFO 1 report. Windows 11 update KB50666835. According to Microsoft, the bugs include, but not limited to USB devices like keyboards not working, Windows recovery environment not working, local host not working, as well as other bugs included in the update. Another bug prevents the update from installing for a lot of people. And all I can say to that is you're probably lucky if you were one of the people and it didn't install for you. As I just demonstrated, you're better off because of all the bugs. The bugs are actually breaking people's computers. And it adds a lot of, the update actually, if the whole point of the update supposedly is to add a whole bunch of this AI crap that I don't want anyway. Personally, I know a lot of people don't want that AI crap. Very few people are high on this new AI stuff. Alexa is very stupid. Just use Alexa as an example. You ask Alexa what time it is, and then rather than telling you the time, Alexa does a Google search, ask, for what time is it? Asking Google what time is it? So that's just an example of how dumb Alexa can be. I always say AI is only as smart as the idiot who created it. And, they're actually working on a new impeachment petition for Trump. Each time they try to impeach him, it gets more and more votes. It gains more and more momentum. But I don't know if it's going to make it to that, folks. I think Trump's going to end up being removed somehow. Here's Al Green talking about impeaching Trump here. Have a great night, everyone.
Acted in direct violation of the War Powers Clause of the Constitution. President Trump has devolved and continues to devolve American democracy into authoritarianism by disregarding the separation of powers and now usurping congressional war powers. In all this, Donald J. Trump has abused the powers of the presidency in a manner contrary to his trust as president, has become a threat to American democracy, subverted our constitutional government, and devolved democracy into authoritarianism, to the great prejudice of the cause of law and justice, and to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, Donald J. Trump, by such conduct, warrants impeachment and trial and removal from office. I yield back the balance of my time.
Under Rule 9, a resolution offered from the floor by a member other than the majority leader or the minority leader as a question of the privileges of the House has immediate precedence only at a time designated by the chair within 2 legislative days after the resolution is properly noticed. Pending that designation, the form of the resolution noticed by the gentleman from Texas will appear in the record at this point. The chair will not at this point determine whether the resolution constitutes a question of privilege. That determination will be made at the time designated for consideration of the resolution.
Mr. Speaker, and still I rise. And I rise today because I believe my country to be at the crossroads of democracy and autocracy. The moment of decision is near. We will have to decide whether we will have a country that abides by a constitution that is meaningful or ignores the Constitution such that it becomes meaningless. I choose to stand on the grounds laid by the founders and framers of the Constitution. I stand today to announce that at the conclusion of this 1-minute message, I will bring articles of impeachment to the attention of the House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
What purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I rise to give notice of my intention to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows. H-Res 537, impeaching Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors. In the House of Representatives, June 24, 2025, Mr. Al Green of Texas submitted the following resolution. Resolution impeaching Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors. Resolved that Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the Senate. Articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America, and in the name of itself and the people of the United States of America, against Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, in maintenance and support of his impeachment against him for high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 1, abuse of presidential powers by disregarding the separation of powers, devolving American democracy into authoritarianism by unconstitutionally usurping Congress's power to declare war. In his conduct of the office of President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, in violation of his constitutional oath, faithfully to execute the office of President of the United States and, to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, abused the powers of the presidency when he disregarded the doctrine of separation of powers by usurping Congress's power to declare war and ordered the United States military to bomb another country without the constitutionally mandated congressional authorization or notice to Congress. Cognizant of the fact that should another country's military bomb a facility within the United States of America, it would be a de facto declaration of war against the United States of America. On June 12, 2025, the State of Israel initiated attacks on Iran, ostensibly to target sites and individuals of importance to Iran's nuclear program. Iran retaliated, and the